The news this week. There's 840,000 acres in the United States been purchased and allotted to data processing centers. 840,000 acres. Mostly all prime farmland. And it's gonna use billions of gallons of water to cool them. And our grid system has already been determined to have to be redone because they'll have a huge use for electricity. Now, why would we do that? Did I get a guess?
Well, it's there's so many people are online. They're running, that data, to save all the data. They need those bigger ones. So I work with the Farm Bureau, and we've got a yay and nay on that. Most of the farmers want to keep their land, but if a lot of people want to sell their land, they're either selling it for housing or they're selling it for the data centers. There's two things on those data centers. There's an intake where they circulate the water in and out, and then there's an intake where it's continuously inside. So there is so much information on the things. It's hard to be either way until you find out all the information on them. And now, if you've seen the news, AOC is against them. So, if AOC is against them, you're going to get people who are against AOC for them. And she's spreading lies about things. So, like I said, you don't have all the information on them. So it's kind of like I just stand back, watch, and see where it goes, because all the information is not there for everything. But I don't think they need to be taking over the farmlands, that's for sure. And that's what a lot of the farm people in Indiana are fighting against. But there's one that is supposed to be going up in northern part somewhere. And up there, they are fighting water rights when it comes to housings coming in. They're basically stealing the water off of the farmers to the housing and not letting the farmers have their own. So there is so much between everything that, the data centers are just kind of another niche in the land grabs around here.
Okay. Anybody else? That's part of it, yep. I agree. But why would we put that over food?
Money. Money.
Money?
Power, data.
Power, control. In the 13th chapter of Revelation, you get a really good description of how Paul would have described AI. Had this image that spoke, this machine that spoke, this rock that spoke. He would look at it and he'd know it wasn't a human. And if God actually showed him a robot, how would he describe it? And if they're going to enforce the mark of the beast, which we're getting ready to study in the Wednesday night Bible study, if we're really going to control everybody, it's going to need a huge worldwide system that could put that into control. And there's the internet, and my wife's always, she got to like everything. 1,200 bytes, like, click. Looked over one day and I said, do you know those people? No, but they were courteous enough to send me something. No, they put it on Facebook, they didn't send it to you. 1,200 bikes, click, click,
40
click.
minutes to
Also, where do you think the biggest conglomeration of these data centers are? What state?
Kansas.
She said Kansas.
Kansas? No? Virginia, right across the river from Washington DC. Control. And they're being spotted all over the United States. There's over 500 of them either working, being built, or in the mix. So they're building just as fast as they possibly can. The mark of the beast comes up at the 3.5 years of Revelation, and we're gonna deal with it later on in Daniel too. But the mark of the beast comes up in Revelation and in Daniel. And it is basically them controlling us. Them having their finger on us. And these data centers are probably gonna be necessary because every transaction is going to be there will be no money involved, it'll be direct transfer. And it is now, when you scan that, your charge card at Walmart, and you got your phone in your pocket, the minute I put that in I get a beep that transaction has occurred. I was at Walmart yesterday, or Home Depot yesterday, and I scanned the card before my phone went beep, and I looked at it, and he said, "Your Home Depot receipt." I hadn't even picked up the bags yet. So it's already here. It's already here. And when we studied Revelation, where did we see the barcode? With the 666 right on it.
Forehead.
It's either the forehead or the hand, but do you remember the barcode? There's three
Probably got
long lines in the barcode, one in the middle, one in the left, one on the right. And they stick down a little bit further than the rest of the barcode. Now, if you look at that barcode real close, the number for a 6 on the barcode is narrow line, narrow space, narrow line. Got anything with you that's got a barcode on it? Well, look at it when you get home. Narrow line, narrow space, narrow line is 666. It's right on that barcode, right for us to see, and it's been there for 20 years. And everything you buy and sell is controlled by that barcode. Now, it's not personal yet. They're not trying to, they're offering it for convenience sake. But the bottom line is, at some point, it'll be forced. And to enforce it, we're gonna have huge data movement by every human being in the United States or in the world eventually, so that they can see what I'm buying, where I'm buying it, and where I'm at. If the government was tracking me, they would know everything I did yesterday because I used my church card and barcode in Celestine, and I used it in Jasper, and I lived in Hayesville to get gasoline, and then I used it in French Lick. They can track every movement I make just by looking where my church card was scanned. So, what Don said's right. There's a lot of data that needs to be, but I think there's a darker image behind it. And most people don't have a clue about 666. But you do. You do. All right, let's go with 6 through 12.
4, we're on 4, 6 through 12. Chapter 4,
Chapter
6 through 12. So I commanded that all the wise men of Babylon be brought before me to interpret their dream for me. When the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and diviners came, I told them the dream, but they could not interpret it for me. Finally, Daniel came into my presence, and I told him the dream. He is called Balthazar, after the name of my God, and the spirit of the holy gods is in him. So, or I said, Balthazar, chief of the magicians, I know that the spirit of the holy God is in you, and no mystery is too difficult for you here. Here is my dream. Interpret it for me. These are the visions I saw while laying in bed. I looked, and there before me stood a tree in the middle of the land. Its height was enormous. The tree grew large and strong, and its top touched the sky. It is visible to the ends of the earth. Its leaves were beautiful, its fruit abundant, and on it was food for all. Under it, the wild animals found shelter, and the birds lived in its branches. From it, every creature was fed.
Okay. Number 6. The king had this disturbing dream, and it bothered him, so he calls in all the wise men. And that was the satraps and the occultists and everybody. Who came first? Who rushed in?
All who rushed in? All the magicians, enchanters,
Yeah.
astrologers, diviners.
All the guys that are serving the world, all the guys that are serving the false gods, they show up first. Why?
They wanted to be number one.
They wanted to be number one. Remember, they failed to do the other dream. And they had to get back even with Daniel for interpreting that dream. So they grabbed everything and they got dressed and they rushed over to the king to try and beat Daniel to the draw. All right. Who came last?
Daniel.
Daniel comes waltzing in after they're done and they can interpret it. That was probably God-driven. Because God let all the occultists and all the satraps and all the other worship people, he let them fail, and Daniel comes walking in. And how does the king address Daniel?
Chief of the magicians. Chief of the magicians.
Sorry.
Chief of the magicians.
Oh, yeah, chief of the musician. He's the one that's training the wise men for the arrival of Jesus Christ. Okay, so they all fail, and king addressed Daniel as Belteshazzar, or that was Bel, a Babylonian god. He renamed Daniel after his god. So he referred to him as Belshazzar. So, in 9b, the king addressed the spirit of the holy gods. He was convinced that the spirit of the holy God was in Daniel and spoke through him. So he already knew that Daniel was special. How do you suppose this set with the rest of the people?
Not very well.
Not very well. They got one up again. Daniel comes walking in and he steals the show. Now, he didn't steal the show because of his arrogance. He didn't steal the show because he wanted to be special. He stole the show because he was serving God. Okay. And in 9c, the king asked Daniel to interpret the dream for him. Any questions on that? Okay, here goes. He tells Daniel the dream. Yeah. He saw a huge towering tree in the middle of the earth. It grew enormously strong and high, touching the sky. It was visible to the whole earth. Well, he didn't know his whole world. It was visible to his whole world. What Nebuchadnezzar knew was his kingdom, and there's a map of it here. That was the Babylonian Empire, and it was extensive. I mean, it was from horizon to horizon as far as Nebuchadnezzar was concerned. He had conquered basically all the lands that he knew. He was in charge of all that area. So, the tree, it was touching the sky. It was so high that the whole earth could see it, well, his whole earth could see it. Right? Very fruitful and provided food for all, and it provided shelter and food for all the animals and birds. What do you think the tree means?
It was Nebuchadnezzar.
Means Nebuchadnezzar. And he wasn't the tyrant that Cyrus is going to be when he comes in from the Assyrians. If you bucked him, he made an example of you. And he took a couple of the Israeli kings back to Babylon after he took the captives out of Babylon, or out of Jerusalem for 70 years. And the ones that bucked him, the ones that rebelled against him or pushed back, they just got killed. But he took everybody he could back to serve in his kingdom. So you've got this great and powerful king who is fairly good to his captives because he's all benefited them. Rome was too. Rome would come in and make a bargain with you. Look, you pay your taxes, you're part of the Roman Empire, we'll build you roads, we'll put in schools, we won't make you slaves. But if you rebelled against them, they came down with an iron fist. You were gonna die. If they caught you, you were gonna die. But essentially, they knew that in order to occupy these lands, they had to have people on them. And they had to have people planting the crops. They had to have people to work in the stores and everything. So Rome was pretty benevolent to its people if they obeyed. If they obeyed. So I read 13 through 16.
I saw in the visions of my head while on my bed there was a watcher, a holy, the one coming down from heaven. He cried aloud and said, "Thus chop down the tree and cut off its branches and strip off its leaves and scatter its fruit. Let the beasts get out from under it and the birds from its branches. And nevertheless leave the stump and roots in the earth, bound with the band of iron and bronze in the tender grass of the field. Let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let him graze with the beasts on the grass of the earth. Let his heart be changed from that of a man. Let him be given the heart of the beast, and let it 7 times pass over him."
Okay. So the second part of the dream was the tree was cut down. Now, we've already established that the dream was Nebuchadnezzar. And we'll see that in next week's paper that you were handed out last week. So, we already know the tree's gonna be cut down. Okay. So, why is God gonna cut down the tree?
Taking away his power. Taking away his power.
Okay? He'll take away his power.
Was it to humble him?
And to humble him. Anybody else? Right. Now remember, he said, it described Nebuchadnezzar as a benevolent king. And both those answers are right. Both those answers are right. And we're gonna see that next week. You're getting a little ahead of me, but you did your lesson. So he's going to discipline him, and he's going to take away his power. For how long?
7.
Hmm?
7.
7 years. For 7 years, he's gonna take away his power. And there's clues here to how he's gonna do it. He grew enormously strong, touching the sky. If a person's really strong, and if the whole earth is giving him attention, and if his empire is prosperous, there was food available to all, okay? And if he provided shelter and food to everything in the kingdom, you would think he would be a great guy, wouldn't you? Well, what's his history so far?
Conquering.
Not God, for God, not God, for God, not God, for God.
Wishy-washy.
Huh?
Wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Double-minded.
Double-minded, yeah, that's, there, we got a scripture in the New Testament. God does not tolerate a double-minded person. What's that mean? If God's involved in this, I mean, everybody's kind of double-minded, right?
Are you for the world or for God?
The world. Yeah, the world's kind of double-minded. It tells you what you want to hear, and when your back's turned, you don't know for sure what they're going to do. Right? How many people can you count on your fingers that you can absolutely trust with your darkest secret, or will show up when you need them? I don't need a number. But the point is, and my grandpa used to say, Bill, I'd get upset with somebody at school or something. He'd say, Bill, when you get to the end of your days, you're gonna find out, now he was about 85 when he said this. He said, when you get to the end of your days, you're gonna realize that you can count all your true friends on one hand. I've got a lot of people who are friendly to me, but what if a tree falls on my house and I need somebody on my roof in the middle of the night? Who's gonna show up? I know two that will. I know two that will without a doubt. And I know some that might. But isn't that about the way it goes? We're so busy with other things and things of the world that sometimes we skip the important things. Now, some people can't. I mean, nurses can't leave their duty at the hospital to come over and work on my roof. And I don't expect them to, okay? But there are other people who can but don't. They can, but they don't. All right. So he's a great king, and there's a lot of good things about him, but he's wishy-washy. Back and forth, back and forth. And we're gonna see it again. We're gonna see it again. So the tree was cut down because they're going to humble him, and he's going to take away his power, and he's going to show him exactly who he is. But he's not done with him yet. He's still in the disciplining process. Now, if you look at Nebuchadnezzar, the discipline gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So what's that tell you about God's discipline? You've all been disciplined by God, right?
Yeah, it could have been easier if it had listened the first time.
Isn't that the truth? If we just listen the first time, if we just do what he asks us to do, wouldn't life be a lot greater? We were babysitting for the grandkids, and Reed was quite a bit small. He was probably 7 or 8. And his job was to feed the chickens. Well, he's putting off, it's getting dark. I said, Reed, do you have a flashlight that works around here? He said, no, why? I said, you're gonna be needing it in about 15 minutes because it'll be dark out there. And he starts whining, and I gotta do my homework, I gotta do this, I wanna see the end of this show. And I said, Reed, you just spent more time telling me why you didn't wanna do it than it would have taken if you just walked out there and threw some corn on the ground. And filled up, there's a hose out there, fill up the pot and throw some corn on the ground, come back in. I said, you just wasted 3 times as much time it would have taken if you just went and done it. Now, your kids have never been that way, have they?
Oh,
Oh.
all the time.
Huh?
I always told Austin, if you put as much work into doing the job as you did getting out of doing the job, you would have done a great job.
But of course, you guys weren't, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Dad said do something and you didn't put it off, right? You didn't do it. Matter of fact is, we taught them how to do it.
Exactly.
Now, we figured it out by the time we got in our 40s or 50s, or we didn't. That sounded like a nervous laugh to me.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Okay. But God starts out easy. He says, oh, go on, feed the dog. And then we push back. We say, well, now, you're wasting time. It's gonna get dark out there and you don't have a flashlight. We go on, we push back and we push back, and he gets sterner and sterner and sterner. And it's not because he's sore and he's having a bad day, it's because we are forcing him to do it. And Nebuchadnezzar is a great example of how we shouldn't respond to God. He's a great example. All right, so tree's gonna be cut down and take away your power. The fruit is gonna be stripped off and scattered. What do you think that means? Well, we're gonna find out next week.
The people?
People. And if the people go, who's gonna harvest, who's gonna plant? I mean, it's a huge empire. There's a bunch of people out there that need to be fed, and if they don't get fed, they rebel. So, this is a huge mammoth empire, and when he falls apart and his rule falls apart, the people are gonna be scattered. When Nebuchadnezzar's gone, what do you think the slaves are gonna do?
Leave. Leave.
They're gonna flee, they're
They're
gonna
not
take
gonna
off.
keep working.
Okay, and the people who are captives and were taken to Babylon to work in the Babylonian Empire, they're gonna start sneaking out of town. I was thinking about the Underground Railroad. You know, when the war started, the Underground Railroad became very profitable for the people who were running it because everybody wanted to get out of the South before the war got. And thousands and thousands and thousands of black slaves escaped through the Underground Railroad. The animals and the birds will flee. Your subjects are going to flee. He's the tree. The animals and the birds take shelter in the branches or under the tree. And they're going to flee. As soon as he's off the throne, they're going to get out of Dodge. All right? And the stump was to be left and bound with iron and bronze to protect it. What's that about?
No, we want him to tell us.
Well,
I thought she knew.
No, I want to hear what Bill has to say about it. That's what I was wanting to know about.
well, I want to hear what you say.
No, I don't really have, I really don't. To
So
me.
you want me to take?
Yeah, please.
Be on display.
He's still got a purpose for the tree.
Okay.
He's not done with Nebuchadnezzar yet. Now, we're gonna see in the next chapter, somebody that, rebelled against God, and God just dealt with him the same night. And he didn't, his rule was ended. But Nebuchadnezzar, he's not done with him yet, so he preserves the stump. Have you ever cut off a tree in the garden and left the stump? What happens?
Right.
Comes back up. You cut it off again, it comes back up. You cut it off the first time, 2 branches come up. So you cut off the 2 branches, what happens? 3 branches come up, and then 4. And before long, you got this huge bush that used to be a tree. And until you dig up the roots,
It's still there.
that thing is gonna bug you every year of your life. Okay. So, somebody read. Here the message switched from talking about the tree to a man. So there's a man about this. Okay. Did you read 15?
He read up to
Yeah.
16.
Yep, okay. The man was to live outdoors among the animals and be exposed to the weather. And in 16, the man's mind was to be changed to the mind of an animal, was to become insane and acting like an animal. Have you ever been reading the Bible and you thought, why did God do that?
Lots of times.
I mean, this is kind of a strange action for loving God. How does God usually deal with us? It's different for us than it is for them. The Holy Spirit quickens our spirit and begins to point at our guilt. Remember Nathan pointed at David and said, "Thou art the man"? Well, that was God going through Nathan, but now God doesn't go through Nathan anymore. Now, he may have the preacher preach a sermon that, have you ever been in church and it sounded like the preacher was talking to you? And you wondered how he knew your dark secret, that you had cheated on your taxes, or whatever it was? You ever been there? And the preacher or the Sunday school teacher, heaven forbid, teaches something and it's like, how did he know? You ever been there when that happened? That's the Holy Spirit talking to you. Not only did he quicken you, he quickened the preacher to be his instrument to bring it to your attention. And then he points to the guilt and you have a choice. You can push back or you can admit it. Okay, God, I get it. I'm sorry, I'll not do that again. Or you could say, well, they don't need my money anyway. Well, the next sermon's gonna be worse. And sometimes it's not even the sermon. I preached a sermon on the first chapter of Ruth one time, and it's about commitment. And I get to the front door, and this woman walks out, a little old lady, sweet little old lady. She walks up and says, "Well, you sure stomped all over my feet today." I thought, there was nothing in this sermon that would have stomped all over your feet. And she said, "I've been at it with my neighbor for about 3 weeks, so if you'll just preach a better sermon next week, I'll go apologize to her." She walks out. I had no idea that she was fighting with her neighbor. And there was nothing in the sermon that should have said that, but the Holy Spirit used that sermon somehow, some way, to quicken her spirit, and she felt guilty. She was a sweetheart, but that day it was like, what? Okay. So he leaves the stump and he binds it with iron and bronze. He protects it. He wants that stump to be there when he decides to use it again. He protects it. Well, he starts talking to,
Verse 13.
starts describing the man. He's gonna live outside, he could be in the weather, and he's gonna lose his mind. Okay, 17 to the end.
The decision is announced by messengers. The Holy One declares the verdict, so that the living may know that the Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth and gives them to anyone he wishes and sets over them the lowliest of people. This is the dream that I, King Nebuchadnezzar, had. Now, Belteshazzar, tell me what it means, for none of the wise men in my kingdom can interpret it for me, but you can, because the spirit of the holy gods is in you.
Okay, so this man that shows up, standing beside the stone, he tells him why, and guys were right. The reason for the punishment, that people might know that God is sovereign. Okay. Whatever happens on this earth, it's about God. Sometimes he uses the strangest people to bring things about. Sometimes he sends the weirdest dreams. But there's a purpose in all of it. All of it has a purpose. Have you ever been to the point where you looked up to God and said, "What are you doing?" Ever been there? Okay. What are you doing? Why is this? Well, he's got it. And then you found out later there was a purpose. He was leading you in the right direction. Now, you know, I don't know if you know a lot about horses, but once they're broke, it's very easy to lead them, or it's very hard, depending on them. I mean, you touch the right side of their shoulder, they'll turn left. You touch left side of their neck, they'll turn right. Or they'll shake their head and try to push against you. They say to have a really good obedient horse, you have to break their spirit without breaking them. Because as long as that spirit is independent, they're not going to cooperate. So, that's what's going on here. God is sovereign, and he controls all the world's rulers and kingdoms. He is working all things out for good. Now, sometimes when you're neck deep in alligators, it's hard to see what God's doing. Got you out in the swamp neck deep in alligators, and you try to figure out, well, what's good about this? If you're God's child, it is for good, and you will end up using it for good. We'll touch on this a little bit next week, and then we're going to finish up the chapter. We're running late.